You just completed the religious trauma quiz, and I'm really interested to hear how it went. Were you surprised by the results? Were you surprised by some of the questions that I asked in that quiz? I wanted to give you a little bit of information about what you might have discovered in that quiz. In religious trauma, there's 3 symptoms that are really, really common. There's more symptoms in general, but there's 3 that I look for a lot. The first is guilt and shame in most areas of your life. When we're in these groups, we get lots of messages that we are somehow wrong, bad, broken, and that leads us to feel like we should feel guilty or shameful about most of the decisions, the thoughts, the feelings that we might have in life. And those of us that get out of those groups, we're usually plagued with those same feelings, and they follow us wherever we go. There's also an intense anxiety and fear about our futures, about whether we've made good decisions for ourselves, whether we should have left, whether we are somehow wrong for having doubts along the way, whether we will ever feel connected in our communities again. And lastly, there's a lot of self-doubt. This is sort of ingrained in any sort of religiously traumatic or cult environment. Those groups function on the need for you to doubt yourself. Why? Because that keeps you going back to the group for more answers, for more reassurances. It keeps you engaged in the many lessons that they're teaching you about how wrong or bad that you are. So the very thing that kept you in those groups, sometimes we take with us after. It's very common to feel a lot of self-doubt after years of being exposed to messages that made you question yourself. So what do we need when we get out of religious trauma or cult environments? Well, we need a lot of support, and we need support from people that aren't in those groups. We need outside sources that are helping us get our feet on the ground us in new pieces of information, help us see that our experience was really specific to the group that we were in, and that there's a whole wide world of experience out there that maybe we were held back from. We also usually need small little drops of information that help us dismantle the messages that we've received over time. Overwhelm is very common when we're getting out of these situations. So a slow trickle of information to help you dismantle those painful and traumatic messages is usually the way to go. And self-reflection. We need to know exactly how this impacted you specifically. So you take that information, you take some support, and you really start the work of reflecting on how these things had an impact on you. So let me introduce what we're doing in our monthly membership for religious trauma and cult recovery. It's called A Year of Non-Magical Thinking, and we are doing those 3 different things that I just spoke about. I give you a new lesson every month that will help you dismantle the very painful and traumatic messages that you received. It's a slow drip of information that's dropped every single month, and it gives you time to really reflect on that piece of information, what you're going to do with it. And then we also give you a lot of journal prompts for you to actually see how this stuff had a very personal and nuanced impact on you. Thirdly, I make myself available for monthly Q&As where you can bring your questions, you can interact with other people in the community and get that support that is so important when we're recovering. I hope you'll join us for A Year of Non-Magical Thinking. It is cost-effective, it's supportive, and it is led by me, a clinical psychologist that specializes in helping people get out of religious trauma and cult environments.